Okay, 30-second board time, and let's get right to what I think are the two hottest topics to talk about here at Media Week. So last year we had a rider who was desperate to get off a Kawasaki and onto a KTM, and a rider who was desperate to get off a KTM and onto a Kawasaki. That's Jorge Prado and Chase Sexton. It doesn't seem possible that they could think the opposite is both true, but could it be possible that they're both right even though they think the exact opposite of each other?
No, man, they're both crazy. They're both crazy. Honestly, this is so typical of riders, and I was a rider, so I know this very well. The grass is always greener or oranger on the other side. It's just how it goes, and they're just trying to find happiness. Every bike has its own tendencies. Every bike does a little bit something different. Now, early on, you're gonna love that aspect of it, but later on, you're gonna be like, well, I don't know that I like that so much, and this is just how it goes with riders. At the end of the day, though, if they are happier, they're gonna go faster. That's the whole answer to the story. So it doesn't matter if the bikes are good, bad, the teams are good, bad. If the rider thinks so, that's all that makes a difference.
Yeah, but that's gotta put some pressure on. Look, they're basically saying, when I get this, I will be better than I was on that. They don't really have another way to turn. There is no plan B. This was the plan B. So doesn't that put more pressure on?
Ah, sure. I mean, well, Sexton, if he doesn't like this bike in 2 years, can go to a different one.
Okay.
Because he went from the Honda that he won a championship on.
We heard this before.
And he went to the Red Bull KTM and he won a Pro Motocross championship on. And that didn't work, apparently. So now he's on Monster Energy Kawasaki, and this is going to solve all of the problems. And I'm being a little facetious here, but this is the life of riders. There's always something better around the corner. We're going to find out in 2026 if that is the case for Chase Sexton.
Well, we've got a lot of insight from the riders. So we had the season preview show that will air on NBC on December 27th. And of course, we got to talk to them this week. So let's find out what Jorge Prado and Chase Sexton are thinking.
The off-season has been going very good. I'm very happy to be back in the Red Bull KTM. I've been riding now for a couple of months on the bike, and everything's feeling awesome. So we are doing a good job with the training, with the bike, and can't wait to start racing in January.
It's going very well. Doing a lot of riding, a lot of motos, which is nice. Like, we haven't been testing a whole bunch, which is good. And I mean, for me, that's really good, at least to get to know the bike and be able to ride and do my motos. And obviously I'm in California now, so we'll do a little testing this week and then go back to Florida, see how it is, maybe one more test before Anaheim, and then we're ready to go.
Okay, so that's Sexton and Prado, which I think is the most intriguing because they wanted out. This one's a little different. If you had told anyone in December of last year that Eli Tomac would still be here, still as a professional racer going into 26, and he'd be wearing a Red Bull KTM hat, no one would have believed you. But I do feel it's different than the situation the other two were in.
Well, it sounds similar because they all switched teams and they all went other places, but I agree with you, it's not the same. It is very, very different in the fact that those two prior riders, they forced their way out. They forced change when their teams wanted them to stick around. This was totally different where Yamaha didn't have a place for Eli Tomac. I was at his house a year ago where we were talking retirement, we were talking about what would this mean, him riding off into the sunset. Well, not so fast. Red Bull KTM needed a guy. They needed a championship contender with the absence of Chase Sexton. You bring in Eli Tomac. He's looking at a new lease on life, which is awesome for Eli Tomac fans. And you know how loud they were last year. I think you're going to get exactly that in 2026. And alongside him, you have AP, who is the loosest, most fun teammate you could ever have. So I think it's a great setup. And the best part of all of it is there's no pressure. No one's saying like, hey, Eli, you better win. We brought you here, you better. No, I think this is all bonus. This is all extra time for Eli Tomac and his career at large.
Yeah, and Aaron Plessinger, like you said, always a fan favorite, and it's good to see he's in much better health than he was toward the end of the 2025 season. So he should be good this year too. But as for Tomac making the big switch, here are his thoughts.
That's right. I've joined forces with Red Bull KTM. I spent many years battling this group and this team. And of course, now I'm with them. Where are we at? We're the first week of December. I've been with, riding the motorcycle five weeks or so. And I must say, they're the pros of the pros. So it's exciting.
Okay, so that's Eli Tomac. And in typical Cooper Webb fashion, he has everybody right where he wants them. He is not the first rider we mentioned in this show, even though he is literally the defending Monster Energy AMA Supercross champion, but that is so typical for Cooper Webb to get slept on by everyone. Cooper Webb does his best work late in the season when the pressure's on, late in the race. It's not about the test track hype in November and December, but we know that doesn't really matter when it comes to him.
Well, think about how long it's been since we were talking about Cooper Webb and we had this, fantastic end of the Supercross championship in Salt Lake. it feels like forever ago.
Yep.
And we've had so much racing since then, a Pro Motocross Championship, Super Motocross World Championship, playoffs. Like, there's a lot that's happened. But let's remember, who's going to show up with the #1 plate here is going to be Cooper Webb. And you said it best. This is exactly where he wants it. If they could put him in the second row at the press conference again at day one, he would love it because it gives him the edge that he's looking for. The worst thing that could happen to Cooper Webb is complacency. That's what he is always fighting against, is if everybody's expecting him to win, he doesn't come out and he's not quite as sharp. So I would look for him to find things that slight him, find reasons to be angry. Everybody talks about how good everybody else is. What about Cooper Webb? But at the end of the day, Cooper Webb's going to be there lurking late in these races. He always is.
Yep. He always figures out a way to get it done. That's why he's the champ. Hey, we haven't mentioned the Lawrence brothers yet either, so maybe they got a chip in their shoulder at this point. Now, here we're talking about Yamaha, so you think we're going to go to Hayden Deegan, right? But let's not forget someone who gets forgotten even more than Cooper Webb is Justin Cooper, who makes all the races, podiums here and there. I talked to him about a month ago, and he said year 3 is when guys step up on a 450. So even though there's never Justin Cooper hype, he is at least in his mind thinking, this could be a year where I step up.
It could, but he has to shore up some of his deficiencies.
Yeah.
That is just step one. And let's remember, he had the red plate going into the first playoff round last year for a reason. He did all the races and he was super consistent. But let's go back to Anaheim 2 of 2025. He's out front. Everything's looking good. He's such a good starter, such a good sprinter. But if he cannot figure out how to get through the whoops with the best in the world, it's not going to come together for him. So he knows this better than we do. Guys like Justin Brayton have actually gone to try to work with him. Asking to be the best whoop rider in the world is probably a bridge too far for Justin Cooper, but if he can mitigate that, if he can close the gap a little bit, there's a chance he wins his first race in 2026.
He just needs to get to Cooper Webb level in the whoops. Webb has never been the best, but he's certainly been good enough. Now we finally talk about Hayden Deegan, everybody, and we're going to douse some of the flames here. I do not think you're going to hear him talking about Anaheim 1 450, like I think a lot of fans were hoping. He is the 250 West champ. The plan is to race 250 West. The plan is not even to show up on a 450 and do any races on the East either. They're going to use that time to prepare for Pro Motocross.
So they say.
Yeah, can we roll it out?
I'm not rolling it out. But I think this was a master stroke of taking the pressure off because it was on the tip of everybody's tongue. Every single question, are you racing the 450 in Anaheim 1? Are you going to race it in the East Coast rounds? What's the plan? What's the plan? This gives them cover now. They're going to go race 250 West. He's going to go try to win and defend that 250 West championship. And if he gets a big lead, if things are going really well, then sure, maybe they can talk about racing a 450 on the East Coast, but no one's going to be asking that question anymore because they answered it on the front end. So whether they're being 100% straightforward with they're out on 450 and Monster Energy Supercross or not, I think this was brilliant to give them the leeway to make that decision without pressure.
It's awesome to see Ken Roczen back in the game and maybe a rejuvenated, also former Supercross champion, Jason Anderson. They're now going to be teammates, so to speak. They'll have different logos on their Suzukis. Roczen on the progressive side, Twisted T for Anderson. But what a thing that this Dustin Pipes used to be a privateer trying to make mains. What a thing he has pulled. He has a team with 2 established superstars on Suzukis. I don't think people saw this coming 5 years ago. Now he's got 2.
He has 2 guys that can win races. Most factory teams can't say that. So that's really impressive. You know, and Kenny, I think, is a threat to win any race at any time. Now, can he sustain that level all the way through a championship? Well, that's been the question since his injuries in 2017. And to this point, he hasn't been able to make good on that. But make no mistake, when the gate drops here at A1 in January, he will be one of the favorites to win the race. He shows up in those moments. He doesn't seem to feel the pressure of an Anaheim 1 like other riders do. So is that same level in May? Probably not. But early on, he's going to be really strong. And as for Jason Anderson, I think this is a new lease on life because sometimes a change in scenery can be the difference that you're looking for because the rest of it's there, the experience, the talent, all those things. And at a race like Anaheim that is literally right behind us, he's a guy that could surprise.
Yeah, he's always been good at the openers too, kind of like Roczen. And because of Roczen's success, we no longer can say, the Suzuki's outdated. They haven't changed in a while. Roczen's proven the bike can get it done. On the opposite end, there is an entirely new motorcycle that's going to make its Supercross debut in January, and that is Ducati with the Troy Lee Designs Red Bull team. And they got 2 30-somethings on the squad too, Justin Barcia and Dylan Ferrandis. I like this move because Ducati the name is so big and so successful in road racing circles that I feel like the fear was they were going to come in too hot. Barcia and Ferrandis are great riders, but I don't think anyone in the stands is going to say if they don't win right off the bat, that's a disaster. They have riders that can get it done, but I don't think it's a must-win immediately. They can build from there.
Well, and this is a very prestigious brand. For them to be making their debut in Monster Energy Supercross, I think is kind of a landmark moment for the sport. You look at the legacy of Ducati globally across motorcycle racing. This is a huge move for them. And I love your point there, because this is going to be a development project. For them to come in and find podium success right away, I don't even think is really in their vocabulary right now. They're trying to develop this motorcycle. They're trying to work towards where they want to be. Not so different than like MotoGP. They were on the outside looking in for years in MotoGP. Then they got to a place where they've dominated the sport. I think they're trying to take that step-by-step process. They have two veterans, 30 plus years old, that have endless experience developing motorcycles. They've been on multiple factory teams, so they know what winning looks like. And I think that will help them get to where they want to be.
Yeah, and a smart move. They have a factory connection and Troy Lee Design, some really experienced people in Supercross and Motocross to help that brand learn the game of racing on dirt. See what the riders think.
Honestly, it's been great. I tried the bike, and first ride I was like, yeah, there's really something strong on the bike. I'm really feeling this bike is very competitive, and yeah, it's been a super easy process.
Beyond exciting to be back with Troy Lee Designs, have Red Bull, Ducati. I mean, Ducati, when you say Ducati, it's like the real deal. So yeah, extremely exciting, ready to go race and have some fun with the crew.
Okay, let's talk about the Paris Supercross winner, which is Malcolm Stewart. Had the feel-good win of the year in Supercross in Tampa. Jeremy Martin's moto win in Pro Motocross could probably rival that for feel-good win of the year. Anyway, people probably thought that Malcolm was going to take this jump, finally got that confidence. You're going to see more of that. In Paris, he looked like that. Will we finally see more of that? Because he didn't really follow it up and went right back where he was.
Well, I think consistency is what you're getting towards. And it's not just consistency running in the top five, it's being the best rider on the racetrack consistently. And that's still something I think he's working at. Being able to harness that magic of being able to beat guys like Jet and Sexton on a week-to-week basis, I don't think there's a magical equation to get there, because I think if you asked Malcolm, he'd be like, I don't know, things just kind of clicked, right? That's how it typically happens for riders. You put in all this work and things just come together on their own time frame. So I think that at this point in his career, do I think that Malcolm Stewart's just going to make some jump where every single week he's the best guy? I don't think that's necessarily very logical. So we're going to get flashes of it, and I think it's going to be very racetrack dependent. If the whoops are really difficult, if it's kind of a low traction environment where he really finds the traction everybody's searching for, yeah, you can see him up there, but it's going to be the other weekends where he's in 6th, 7th, and 8th that kind of derail any kind of championship aspirations.
When we start talking about riders of that level, it's what really reminds you of the hashtag deep field, because you think of the riders we've already discussed and then, oh yeah, there's still Malcolm, and now there's a new 450 Supercross rider as his Rockstar Husky teammate. That's RJ Hampshire, who really looked good on it in Pro Motocross and in the playoffs last year. So I think the expectations have elevated a bit. I think when people thought RJ on a 450 was, oh, hold on. But I think we now have enough data to say there's a really good chance he's going to be really good.
Well, I think everybody should be raising their expectation a little bit. Now, whether that adds pressure or if he's underperforming and running around 8th and 9th, are we kind of like, that's not very good? I don't know. Time will tell. The field is going to be incredibly deep early on. So I think staying the course, understanding the situation, and progressively moving forward just like he did in Pro Motocross in 2025, I think that's the ticket. But the most important thing is you have to be behind the gate every single time it drops. You have to be there, and you can't be one of the guys that falls by the wayside due to injury. So we know with RJ, he can be his own worst enemy. He's got to stay calm and ride within himself. If he does that, I think he'll progress throughout their whole season.
But he actually did that more on the 450 than he did the 250, and I know that his buddy, Jordan Smith, who was also kind of a wild man on a 250, was hoping to do the same thing. So the plan was Smith was going to be Triumph's lead rider to debut their 450. They've been racing the 250 class here for the last 2 years. And just like RJ, I think he was hoping the bigger bike will actually help him smooth out, but it didn't happen because he's already out with a shoulder injury. I think this dates back to previous injuries. So it'll be a bit before we get Jordan Smith and his rookie Triumph 450 campaign out there. But there was another rookie that was not expected. So when Prado departs, Monster Energy Kawasaki went through about 3 or 4 weeks of hearing every, and I mean every option under the sun of who could take that slot, it's a very logical move. They just moved Garrett Marchbanks up.
Yeah, we need to get some sort of author to write a book on how this came together. How did Garrett Marchbanks end up on the Monster Energy Kawasaki 450? Because it was going to be Prado, and then it was going to be Cameron McAdoo, and then it was going to be Marchbanks, and we're going to go find someone. They were calling everybody.
Oh, yeah.
But in the end, I think this makes a lot of sense. Marchbanks, really big guy. The 450 is going to suit him better. What was he struggling on all of 2025? Starts. He's not going to be underpowered. He's going to have every opportunity to get a good start on the 450. Now he's going to be able to utilize his size, utilize his skill set, maybe with better starts. And this could be the launch pad for a very successful 450 career.
This guy took a one-year deal on Pro Circuit knowing there probably wasn't going to be room to stay on the team in 2026, and he ended up with a 450 ride. So that is one of the all-time coups, betting on yourself. And if we were going to bet on this, and we are not, look,
You can't say bet.
we have waited this long into the show to really mention the Lawrence brothers at all. There's going to be so much talk going in Anaheim 1 and how deep the field is. Is there a chance that we have all just forgotten, oh yeah, Jet Lawrence got hurt last year. He's still the guy. Because I think at this point, yes, he did it in the SMX World Championship and Pro Motocross. But like you said about Cooper Webb, Supercross feels so long ago. I think we might be due for a reminder of Jet Lawrence in Supercross.
Wait, you don't think that I'm already thinking about Jet Lawrence going into
I don't think it's the same as last year.
Really?
No, I think people have forgotten.
I think you're crazy.
people have forgotten.
All I'm thinking about
Yes.
is Jet Lawrence in Anaheim 1. Truly, because I've been saying this for 2 years now. I think Jet Lawrence is the best motocross, SMX, Supercross, any sort of discipline with knobby tires on. I think he's the best in the world at it. And I think whether he wins Anaheim 1 or not isn't even really the point. I think he's, just like you said, he's going to remind people in January exactly who he is.
I feel like after the rookie motocross championship, the rookie supercross championship, we came to this event last year, everyone's saying, this is it, this is it. And then we saw, oh, things can happen. Guys can get hurt. I think there's going to be a reminder of how good he is, and none other than Cooper Webb knows it. And I don't know the other guys will say it, but they know it. Now let's talk Hunter, who actually has very little data in 450 Supercross. Are you worried at all that we are just assuming that Hunter Lawrence will be just as good here as he has been in both the playoffs and in motocross? Is there any disconnect between those two? Because Supercross we haven't seen much just because he missed time.
I'm not as worried as I was a year ago.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, these media days last year, I left here, and if you had to say, hey, what was the resonating feeling that you left with? I'm like, I'm worried about the Lawrence brothers and how this is going to go, because they seemed unhappy. They seemed like they were not in a great place with their motorcycle. They didn't seem like they were in a great headspace at all. So if you're asking me if I'm worried, maybe, we'll see. Worry's probably not the right word, but anything is better than where they were a year ago this week, because that was, I truly think, set up for a struggle a month out, and we saw it day one. For both of them to be outside the top 10, nobody could have predicted that.
Check the mood here going into 2026.
2025 got cut short with an injury, sadly, but this year we're looking to have some good redemption and hopefully make it through a full season of Supercross. So that's the goal. Just super excited to be back under the lights again, and just that full adrenaline rush that we get in Supercross.
The 2026 Supercross season, I've had circled on my calendar since 2025 when I was taken out by an injury on my shoulder. So obviously getting healthy to every round is a huge box you have to tick. But yeah, I've got that one circled. I'm really looking to improve my results there. Motocross, SMX playoffs have been really good to me the past 2 seasons. So that's the one, the main big one I'm looking to improve this year.
Okay, so much intrigue, and that's just the 450 class. Now the 250s, we were not going to talk about quite as much here because it's a lot of unknowns. So several big hitters we already know are out with injuries. A tough one for Joe Shimoda, which is unfortunate. Not going to be able to take that momentum from 2025 and winning the world title into Supercross. Hopefully we get him back in a couple of months. Julian Beaumer, they've already said with his back injury, probably not back till Pro Motocross. Seth Hamaker definitely has some unfinished business. I don't think he's riding yet, coming off shoulder surgery, but he should be racing Supercross. Same thing, got Chance Hymas coming off an ACL. We mentioned Deegan's situation already. I feel like the door's open, I just don't know who's going to walk through it.
Well, it's wide open. Think about what you just named. You named a guy that almost won 250 East Coast in Seth Hamaker. He's just going to be starting riding. Anaheim 1 race winner, he's out. Yep. You have Julian Beaumer, who was battling Hayden Deegan for the championship. He's out. Yeah. So who's going to take advantage of this? You got to think Cole Davies is going to bring it. The promise that kid showed a year ago, is not going away. So he's going to be in the thick of this thing. And then Hayden Deegan is the elephant in the room. He's going to come in with the #1 plate. He probably has the most confidence of any 250 racer ever coming in. But I do think he has some steps to take. This was not domination last year in 250 West. I know he won the series with a race to go. I get it, and the stats don't lie. But if you look at individual races, this wasn't utter domination. So I think for Hayden, he really needs to take a step in that and be the guy every single weekend that, like, yeah, Hayden's going to win. Who's going to get second? That's what I'll be looking for from him.
Now here's a rider who could maybe take advantage of this door being open, and that's Levi Kitchen, who coming into last year was about as hyped, probably equal as Deegan. They were jawing on social media, and that was legit. It wasn't like Deegan was up here and Kitchen was here at this point, but then a bad year for Kitchen. Probably gotten forgot about a little bit. This could be his chance.
It absolutely could, and I'm going to one-up you. I'm going to throw Max Anstey in there, and thankfully he's not on set because this would be a 2-hour show. But Max Anstey was on his way to winning this championship at one point last year. So when we talk about the door being open, there are a lot of guys that we haven't talked about in a very, very long time that are going to come in thinking this is their year.
And this is not the last word when we come to preview 2026, because on December 27th, the NBC preview show will air. So watch that on television. And JT, you got to participate in some of the interviews where we get the riders at their homes and we really get to know what they're all about.
It's awesome. It's such a behind-the-scenes look at their life off the racetrack, because when they get here and they put their hat on, sometimes they put their hat on backwards, right? You get one thing at the races and you get something completely different when you're in their home. And I think this is a window into their personal lives that you just don't get anywhere else. So it's a really cool show. I'm excited to be a part of it again for this season.
Yep, that's December 27th, and the hype will ramp up toward the beginning of the 2026 season. Thanks for the special episode of SMX Insider. It's how we kind of mark our New Year's, which is in December instead of January when SMX Insider covers media weeks. Thanks for watching. Check out that show December 27th, and we'll see you right back here at Anaheim.
Hi folks, Lee Diffie from NBC Sports. If you enjoyed what you just watched, well, it's time to bring the action and subscribe to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube channel. You can have it all: news, highlights, interviews, and analysis. So go for it.